Hey, what's up guys, Bajheera here, and welcome to my 5.4 Warrior Guide. I've gotten a lot of questions from a lot of people asking me to make a guide like this, and so I'm more than happy to do so. But keep in mind, I'm not the highest rated or most skilled warrior in the world, by any means. So all of this advice is more going to be from the perspective of, here's some things that I like to do, or some things that work for me, and if these things are helpful to you or interesting to you, then feel free to incorporate them into your playstyle, or at least, here's a little bit of information for you to do with what you want. Anyway, to start off, we're going to go over the warrior spec, talents, and glyphs. So, if you want a PvP, you're probably going to want to go arms spec, and this guide is going to be more catered towards an arms warrior. As an arms warrior, you have Mortal Strike, which is a damage-dealing attack that grants you rage and applies a healing debuff on your target, which is really, really helpful. Overpower will deal a little bit of damage, has a high chance to crit, and will reduce the cooldown of your Mortal Strike, so more rage for you. Slam is your basic rage-spending damage-dealing attack. Colossus Smash reduces the armor of your target by 50% while the debuff is up, and applies physical vulnerability, which makes them just take more damage in general. Now, you can choose whatever talents you like, but right now, I pretty much always stick with Juggernaut, Second Wind, Disrupting Shout, and Mass Spell Reflect. Of course, you can change these talents due to your preference, or due to your comp, or with something that you're fighting against, but generally that's what I stick with. Now, the two specs that I have are a Bladestorm Bloodbath for huge ham damage, and then I have a spec that also incorporates Shockwave and Stormbolt for a little bit more control. And my glyphs also change when I go for these specs. So, for example, Bloodbath Bladestorm might be good for a comp like WLS, or maybe with a Shadow Priest, where you're just spreading lots of dots and you want to do AoE cleave pressure. And if you're going to do that, I have my spec optimized for damage. So I've got the Root Interruption glyph. Anytime you pummel somebody or Disrupting Shout them, you get a 6% damage buff for 20 seconds, which is pretty boss. In addition to that, I also have the Colossus Smash glyph, which will apply a stack of Sunder Armor every time I Colossus Smash somebody. So, like I said, this spec is good for AoE cleave comps, or maybe if you just want to run around in Battlegrounds doing as much damage as possible, this is the spec for you. However, when I play a comp like KFC, I do need a little bit more control and really, really capitalize on those little short CCs that put a enemy healer way behind, and you can score a kill off that. So, in my control spec, I have Blitz, so I can charge extra people, and right now I have Mortal Strike in there, but you can easily switch that out with Bull Rush if you don't anticipate getting trained. So, Bull Rush will give you a little bit extra rage, and like I said, same thing with your talents. There are a lot of cool glyphs for you to try out and experiment with, but these are the glyphs that I generally try to stick with, and have found to be helpful, and I've found to have success with them. But yeah, as you can see, you got a ton of glyphs. Feel free to try them out, see which ones you like, and that's the part of the fun of the game, is that if you like a certain talent or a glyph setup, and you like the way that affects your playstyle, then go for it, nothing wrong with that. But like I said earlier, this guide is going to be more catered towards what I find to be effective, or what has worked out for me, so I'm just going to share that information with you guys. So, that's my basic talents, my two favorite talent specs, my favorite glyphing. So now what we're going to do is move over to gems and reforging. Similarly to your talents and stuff, you can gem and reforge however you want. Right now, I'm sort of optimizing for crit in my gems. Now, you'll notice that I do have the Jewel Crafter's gems for 320 strength, because that's just a bigger stat that you can get. So, your normal gems give you 320 critical strike, and then your Jewel Crafter ones only give you 480, whereas the normal strength ones are 160, and then your Jewel Crafter ones are 320. So, you just get more stats out of it, so I decided to go ahead and plug in my Jewel Crafting gems as strength rather than crit. Now, what I'm going to do here is, instead of going through, I'm going to scroll through, so if you guys need to pause to make sure that, you've reforged everything exactly the way that I have, feel free to do that. But in general, I'm just going to go over what I have in terms of my goal for this. In my reds, I'm usually, aside from my Jewel Crafting gems, I'm going to put an 80 strength, 160 crit. In my yellows, I'm going to put a 320 crit. And in my blues, I'm going to put a green gem that has 80 PvP power and 160 crit. That's going to optimize my crit as much as I can, while giving me strength and PvP power to increase my damage. My reforgers are going to try to get as close to 3% hit as possible. Right now I have 6% expertise, and you might be able to get that a little bit lower, but not by much. And then I've got everything I can reforged into crit, and then after that I've got mastery, and then I really don't favor haste at all, but it ends up being in my gear anyway. So basically you go crit, mastery, haste if you want to have that idea, but 3% hit, 6% expertise is fine. You can maybe get that lower if you want to. Really don't have to worry about haste much. Mastery is what it is, but you really want to get as much crit as possible because, you know, of course, crits are fun. They deal huge amounts of damage, but they also will enrage you on Colossus Smash or Mortal Strike, and that enrage really helps out. So, you know, I've gone back and forth trying the strength spec, which is fine if you like to just have more consistent damage. Right now I'm working with crit because crits kill people, basically. You know, a couple extra 1,000 damage on your hits might not kill people, but, you know, doubling your damage is gonna kill people. So that's what I'm thinking with my crit spec right now. Maybe I'll go back and forth between that, but obviously that's I'm gonna scroll through my stats here in a second, and I'm playing a human warrior right now, so I am able to equip both PvP trinkets, which gives me a ton of PvP power. On my orc warrior, you know, you can go with the on-use trinket if you want to time it with your Bladestorm or something like that, or if you just want a huge like a bigger strength proc, just go ahead and go with the proc trinket with the crit medallion, with the free action trinket. Give you a bigger crit value, and enjoy that. But yep, I'm going to scroll through my stats here just to see. I mean, of course, as you can see with my gear, I have full Tyrannical. I have the shoulders, the chest, and the legs are Grievous, and my weapon is also Grievous right now. So if you don't have that exact same gear, your stats might not look exactly the same. But hopefully you understand the idea of, you know, crit optimization in my gems, crit optimization in my Reforging, and then mastery in anything that already has crit on it. Go ahead and reforge that into mastery, and you feel free to gem and reforge however you want. This is how I've got my character set up right now, and it's working out pretty darn well for me in whatever sort of talent and glyph specs that I've got going on right now. So this part is the part that gets kind of boring and annoying, so if you already know what my keybinds are, if you already know what my macros are, feel free to skip this, but there are a few differences that you might want to take note of with some of my macros. So the first thing that I was showing you is that my charge macro doesn't have Mortal Strike in it now, so it's charge, Mortal Strike, Hamstring. Also has a cancelaura Bladestorm, because now if I'm using Bladestorm and I want to cancel that, I only have it in one macro, right? Well, I mean, actually I have it in a couple, but regardless. I have my Bladestorm macro, which I'll pop my Bloodbath and my Trinket and cast Bladestorm while auto-attacking. But you auto-attack normally now anyway, so that's just an old habit. This is my throw macro. It'll just use Heroic Throw, and then it'll spam throw for me. And I can just keep pressing it over and over and over, and it'll just keep spamming it. But I'm pretty sure it works that way anyway. It might just be a little bit outdated macro. This is my macro that gets me in trouble sometimes, is the execute flag of ownership macro. But don't worry about that. This is my Recklessness macro. It's basically all my cooldowns, and I've got Shockwave in there as well from when I was using Shockwave because, you know, I want to pop all cooldowns and get somebody to stun immediately so I can deal damage to them, as much damage as possible, that is. So Shield Wall, I do have still a Shield Wall macro. Puts me in defensive stance, and will cancel my Bladestorm just in case I have to Shield Wall immediately. Don't want to be stuck on a Bladestorm and just die through it. So Victory Rush, I've got a macro for that. That will cancel any bops, and it will also cancel Bladestorm. So say if I'm really low health, get a kill with Bladestorm. I want to stop that Bladestorm immediately and heal myself up with Victory Rush. That's something that could happen. So now I'm going through my keybinds. I kind of feel like I didn't do a good job going through my keybinds, just reading them to you, but my keybinds pretty much stayed the same from my old macro and keybind videos. So if you have any questions about that, what my actual keybinds are, feel free to refer to my older videos. I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on that because it can take quite a good long while. So basically what I want to do here is I just want to show you any of my new macros that I might have that might be useful to you, or might be something that you don't have in 5.4. So just to reiterate, if you have any questions about my actual keybinds, just refer to an older keybinds video because I do go through them in a lot of depth there. You'll notice that with my battle stance and defensive stance macros, I have my shout in there, but I no longer have my equip set, because you really never have any reason to unequip your two-hander. Even if you're taking a lot of damage, you don't want to sacrifice the damage you deal by bringing out a sword and shield, because it's just worthless. So you might as well keep that two-hander out, go defensive stance, pop any defensive cooldowns you need to, but keep dealing that damage, because that's something that's going to keep you at least, you know, in the fight. You don't want to be forced full defensive, then you do nothing and you're just getting tunneled until you die. So keep that in mind. I do have some kind of weird keybinds all the way over here. I have Alt 4, that's my Shattering Throw. It's not really my main bar, as you can see, but it is there. You know, it's a bound, and that's for my Focus Shatter, because I moved my Alt 2 to Mass Spell Reflect, because that's a new talent you can use now in 5.4. So these are really important macros for you to use. They're your intervening to your banner macros. I'll list all my macros in the description as well, so you can just copy and paste them right into your game, and hopefully they'll work for you. So finish up my keybinds here. Now keep in mind, my keybinds, they're pretty weird. I definitely recommend that you set up your own keybinds in a way that makes sense to you, that is comfortable to you. Basically, the way you wanna set up your warrior keybinds are, there are abilities that you plan on using very, very often. Make those very, very accessible for you. So keys that you can easily press, And then for your, cooldowns that you're not going to be using as often, you can make them like slightly more obscure keybinds. But in general, you want all your keybinds to be something that you can have access to and press very, very quickly. And one of the best ways that you can get used to that is just practice. So set up your keybinds, especially if you've never done keybinding before. Definitely you guys need to keybind. So get your keybinds set up in a way that makes sense to you. Get in those battlegrounds. Only use your keybinds. And if you find out that, certain binds don't work for you the way that you want them to, you can change them. You're allowed to change your setup to work for you. But keybinding is essential, and you really need to get that going in order to be successful in PvP. So get your keybinds set up in a way that feels comfortable to you. Feel free to use my weird-ass keybinds if you want to. If you got the same setup as me, go for it. And just practice, 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 and you will get used to them. I promise, and they will work for you just fine. So rounding out my abilities, the abilities on my main bar are on my keyboard, and then, well, pretty much keyboard and mouse, and then all these buttons, this sort of 4x3 row, 3x4 row. Those are my Naga buttons, and I have them bound mostly on that little side of the bar, but I also have them sort of scattered around. Plus, I also use Naga buttons 10, 11, 12 to do my arena targets, and then I have alt 10, 11, 12 as my focus arena targets. So those are also helpful if you guys want to learn how to use, arena targeting macros or arena targeting. They actually have them already set up in your WoW interface. So just go to your key bindings, set up some key bindings for those, and I definitely encourage you to start to use those. I even need to practice with those. But anyway, so this is something that a lot of people ask me about. This is your rotation and basic tactics as a warrior. So this is going to be a little bit different depending on the comp that you play. For this spec, for the AoE cleave spec, you want to be dealing as just purely as much damage as possible. So, say you got your 2 DPS right here, you're going to want to thunderclap everybody. I mean, if you're playing a WLS, you want everybody bleeding all the time. You want to be dealing as much damage as possible, including that damage to the healer. So right now, you want to get that healer in a focus sphere and just Bladestorm the hell out of everybody on that team. Get your Bloodbath dots up on everybody. Be sure to spread that thunderclap bleed, because now at this point, you can feel free to swap to anybody that you want to, or continue to tunnel damage into that main target. But when you're playing this AoE Bloodbath Bladestorm damage spec, you want to have as much damage rolling on everybody as possible, because that really makes it easy to swap to any target that you want to. So keep that thunderclap up, Bladestorm whenever you've got it up basically, and enjoy spreading that damage around. So, but the basic idea behind warriors in general is you want to keep your hamstring up, you want to keep your mortal strike up, and you want to keep your bleeds up. Now, not necessarily, you don't always want to bleed the healer if you're playing, like, say, KSC, because you don't want to have your hunter always, you don't always want to be breaking your hunter's CC, or you're breaking your teammate's CC, if it's something like a mage as well, where you would, your bleeds would actually break the polymorph or something like that. And so, for the spec where you're doing a little bit more control, your playstyle is going to be slightly different. But now that you do have that Stormbolt, that's what you're going to be using to add to the control of your team. So you can charge in, definitely get your bleeds up on the 2 DPS, chuck that Stormbolt at the healer, let your hunter trap off of that, let your mage polymorph off of that. That's the fun part of the control spec, is that you have lots of options in terms of layering your CC to land a kill. But your basic objective remains the same. You want to keep your hamstring up, you want to keep your mortal strike up, you use Colossus Smash when available. One of the things that you can do just to help have your damage be a little bit more consistent is, even if you get a Colossus Smash proc immediately, if you already have the Colossus Smash debuff up on your target, save that Colossus Smash until it falls off again. Another question I get a lot is, when do you slam, when do you Heroic Strike? Heroic Strike, you really only want to Heroic Strike when you have max rage, but even then, you might just want to Sweeping Strikes as well. You cleave some pets, cleave another member of their team, and when do you slam? A lot of times I'm going to use Overpower more than Slam just for consistent damage, but when I have a really full Rage Bar and a Colossus Smash proc, that's when I want to start slamming, because Slam does deal more damage during Colossus Smash anyway, and with a nice full Rage Bar, you can really lay down some huge deeps in that little burst window. So, this is going to be the end of my 5.4 Warrior Guide for now. I'm more than happy to address any questions that you guys might have, and I will be doing another separate video for my add-ons, because I get a lot of questions about that too. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative, if not entertaining. And if you have any specific warrior questions, please don't hesitate to leave them in the comments, because I do read them, and I'd be more than happy to make videos about them in the future. So, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Peace!